Okay, general math students, in this video we're going to be looking at the equation of a straight line, and what this is really all about is being able to place the gradient and the y-intercept in an equation, and by the same token be able to look at an equation for a straight line and be able to tell what the value for the gradient is and what the value for the y-intercept is. Now you can see some examples down here which clearly show that the number in front of x is the gradient, so in this case 3 being the number in front of x is our gradient, and the number that's on its own is the y-intercept, so in this case -2. Of course this only works when we have standard form, which is where y is the subject on its own, and then that's equal to some number times x plus or minus some number. Right, so this is particularly important when you're reading off the calculator screen for a linear regression. You've got your gradient and y-intercept values off the screen for your calculator, and you'll want to write down the equation of a straight line. So that's why this skill is important. Here's a bunch of questions here. You might feel like you can try these before I do and see if you get the same answers as me. But other than that, I'll have a go at them now. So for these ones up the top here, gradient, I'm going to use A for gradient because that's what this book does, is 5, and y-intercept is -2. Here the gradient -2, y-intercept is 8, and here gradient equals 2.5. There's no number there, which means the y-intercept is 0. Okay, this one here, we're going the opposite direction. We're going to write down the equation. Y equals 3x plus 2 for that one. Y equals -2x for the second one. Y equals x plus 3 for that last one. Of course the number in front of x is 1, but we just leave that without a number if it's 1. We don't bother writing the 1 in. And these last two are a little different. In these we're finding the equation of a line from a graph. I'm going to take a fairly simple approach to this one. I know that I want my y-intercept and my gradient, and then I can plug them into the equation. Well, I can tell here that it's cutting the y-axis at 5. So for this graph, the y-intercept is 5. For this graph, y-intercept is 3. Okay, so that's the first bit. Now for this graph here, I'm going to use rise over run. So this goes from this point to this point. It's going to go up by 5 and across by 5. Now a lot of students might get confused here and think that this run is somehow negative because it's in negative territory on the x-axis, but that's not the case. We're going from -5 up to 0, so it's actually a positive direction. So in this case the gradient, 5 over 5 using rise over run, gives us 1. So the equation for this is y equals x plus 5. Okay, back over here, rise, we're going to go down 3, so -3 and across 1. So our gradient, -3 over 1 gives -3. That means the equation for this line is y equals -3x plus 3. Okay, so go ahead and try the equations, the questions in the description for the video.